Hello, who just joined us?
Everyone, or I guess now we're right at we're down here at Riverside Arena. Today we're talking about the history of hockey in Austin. Feature on the Austin Bruins. We'll get a tour of Riverside Arena, so maybe we'll get to all some places that you guys haven't.
We just heard the noon whistle. So I think we could go ahead and get started. So welcome everyone. Like I said, this is Randy from the Historical Society. And who else we got? Amanda's here.
Amanda from the Harlem Historic Home, and then our speaker today is TJ.
Hey, everybody.
Bruins.
I think most of you guys might know who I am, TJ Shalat with the Bruins. Come on in. Let's take a look at Riverside Arena, and we'll give you some info about the Bruins, Austin Mavericks, Austin Youth Hockey, everything that's been going on in this awesome building. So, for those of you who don't know, Riverside Arena was built in 1973, and it only took a year before hockey hit Austin with the Austin Mavericks. But the Mavericks were only here until 1985, so there was a gap there from 1985 until 2010 where the only hockey going on inside Riverside Arena was Austin Youth Hockey in the high schools, and you can see that right here in the lobby, which is the area most of you guys are probably most familiar with. All these trophies that you can see in not only this case, but all the other cases around the ticket office and everything like that are all from either Austin Youth Hockey or Austin Boys or Austin Girls High School Hockey. They're all filled up. You can see the Sweets Cup, which is a mini version of the Stanley Cup in there, and as well as the District 4 trophies down in the bottom left-hand corner there for all the club hockey and things that go on at Riverside Arena. Hockey runs deep throughout this building because it's one of the most characteristic barns, as they say, for hockey. And it's not only the Austin Bruins, we're the new kids on the block as far as that's concerned. It's really been the high school, it's been the Austin Mavericks. And we'll get to talking about the Mavericks a little bit when we see the banners hanging up in the arena.
Okay, so what's the history of the Sweets Cup?
So the Sweets Cup is actually sponsored by the Sweets Hotel, which is up in, oh boy, I can't think of where it's at.
Leroy,
Leroy,
we were
thank
just
you.
there.
Yes, that's right. So that's the Sweets Cup that was sponsored by them, and it was given out as a youth tournament that was held here at Riverside Arena. So that was the grand prize for the winner, sponsored by the Sweets Hotel. There's plenty more cases around. As we take a look, as we go through the rest of the lobby here, we have the the Riverside Arena, the Figure Skating Club. That's another tenant that's here at Riverside Arena. So the guys and gals get on the ice and they do their routines and have a great place to do it right here at Riverside. We have plaques and awards from the Austin Mavericks Girls High School Hockey, as it was called back in the day. Now it's just the Austin High School for the girls. They have their own plaques and all their championships and their winners. Boys hockey, as we go further down the line, here is last year, the 2019-20 Austin Packer boys hockey team. That's all the players there and their team photos, as well as their team managers as well. And the same thing goes for the 19-20 girls hockey team, which is right down on the other side. Two very storied programs out of the Austin Packer hockey teams. And they're getting set. You know, the girls were in here, I don't know, maybe 2 weeks ago or so, hitting the weight room and getting ready for their season now that we have ice out there. And we'll talk about the ice and what that process is and how they got ice, because I know many of you might have seen the discussions between city council members and do we put ice in, do we not put ice in? Well, the decision was we're putting ice in, not only for the Bruins, but so Austin Youth Hockey, so Austin High School Hockey, and of course the Bruins can all use it, and the Figure Skating Club can use it this summer. So we'll take it around the corner and we'll bring you guys back through the locker rooms. I'll show you the locker rooms that the high schools use, the visitors for the Bruins who are playing the Bruins use. Basically everybody will use these locker rooms other than the Bruins themselves. We'll get to that too, don't worry. course, you enter in, awesome ceiling. That's my favorite thing about this place is the ceiling, the joists, and just the character that it really has. Even though every single time I bump my head up there in the press box, I throw out a couple expletives and I hate the roof, I do think it's gorgeous. And it's an absolutely beautiful looking building.
It's nice and chilly in here. How warm is it?
It is very chilly. It's 55 degrees in here. In this building, if anywhere, if you've ever been in it, as you turn around, it is all concrete block, and that is by design to keep this building very, very cool. You've got to keep it cool to keep that ice in tip-top shape. And it's actually the first step in building ice. Number one thing they have to do is get the temperature of the building down. Otherwise, building the ice is just going to be trying to push a rock up a hill. So we'll get to that in a second, but yeah, it's a cool, crisp 55 degrees in here. And you might not notice it when you come to a Bruins game because there's so many bodies in here, there's so many people. That actually elevates the temperature in here as well. And it's something that Riverside Arena staff actually keep an eye on throughout the course of the game just to make sure that it's not getting too warm in here. And if it does, they have the ability to control the cooling system underneath the ice to make sure that it stays at its proper hardness and that the ice is in good shape. So that's something that they keep an eye on throughout the course of the game. Rarely do they ever have to change anything. But when you talk about paint during pink night and some of those nights where it's 2,500 people in here wall to wall, absolutely they have to focus on that. So come on back, let's go take a look at the locker rooms.
That's something I've never thought about, how many people would be in here and then how warm it can make the air temperature.
Absolutely,
change like that.
absolutely. Especially when you talk about people who are crammed in certain areas of the ice will get along the edges and things where there's a lot of people. But underneath the stands, because right above us is of course where everybody's going to be sitting during the game, is where we house all the locker rooms on this side. On the other side it's the Bruins offices and some other rooms which we'll get to here in just a little bit. But inside here there are all the locker rooms. There's 4 total locker rooms. This one for the Bruins is generally reserved for the referees. So this is where they're going to get ready. But this could be used for if there's youth hockey. One team could be in this room. If there's girls hockey, maybe they put their opponents in this room. It really just depends on whoever's using the ice. They'll assign somebody to a locker room based on what's open and what room and what space they have available. So there's 4 different rooms just like this. There's a red room, a yellow room, a blue room, and a green room, all underneath here, as well as something I can't show you because I can't get in there because it's locked, but the girls' locker room they have for themselves. So that is there as well. There's also smaller rooms for coaches too, where they can just kind of go and let the team be the team in the locker room, and the coach figures out their strategy, what's their plan, what are they going to do, and how does it work. So let's go ahead. I'm going to show you where the ground zero for the clock and the operations are right around the corner. Here's the blue room, which is exactly like the red room. The lights off at this point, but same exact situation as the locker room. We have our camps coming up starting this Friday. Every single one of these locker rooms is going to be used, especially in today's day and age where social distancing is going to be something that's mandatory through these camps. So we're going to have kids spread out all across this locker room and everywhere. When the Bruins are playing at home and they have a team coming in, oftentimes along this wall you're going to see a table that would be set out. And on that table, they'll have anything from water bottles to tape to stick tools and repair tools. And you'll see guys mingling along here as they tape their sticks up, as they, tighten up their skates or do whatever they need to do. So this tends to get a little bit congested, but there's actually a door right around the corner, which is convenient access from the road. So the bus can just park there and they can pull in. And the same thing I would imagine for the high school teams and anybody else who's going to be coming in here. They're going to use this hallway and this space for that. You can see there's the boys' locker room down there. They're 20, 20, 21. They get their own reserved. Austin girls gets their own reserved as well. And then the Bruins, we have ours around the corner. You can't get to it from this alleyway. I'm going to have to show you somewhere else. But follow me. We'll come through here. Here is the bench area. So the Austin Bruins bench is down there. You can see those 2 wooden stools. Those are for the coaches to stand on so that they can see over top of all the players. And then down below on the red benches, that's where the players are going to sit. And now where the camera is standing right now, you guys are actually in the penalty box. So that's the
Gotta
that's
get out of the penalty
that's
box.
the
Back
sin
up.
bin. That's the Bruins penalty box. So if anybody commits an infraction, they'll go ahead and sit there. As for the seating, it's the exact same for the high school or for youth hockey. The home team is always on this bench that you're looking at right now. Their penalty box is always the penalty box that's directly in front of you as well. So that's always the home team, and it's actually labeled. It's tough to see from this angle, but it's actually labeled up on the plexiglass that's up behind the bench itself. On the other side, it's the exact same mirror image. It's just the visitor side of the ice. Down here, directly behind me, this is the official scorer's table. So during a Bruins game, it's a little bit more robust. It's a little bit more crowded in here because there's so many people that need to be here. We'll have a timekeeper who controls everything up on the scoreboards, and it's just the scoreboard. So this little gray box will only control the lights that you'll see on the Welcome to Riverside Arena red scoreboard that's up there. Anything that you see on the Jumbotron, on the big screen on the other side of the building, is going to be controlled up in the press box. So that red scoreboard that runs underneath the Jumbotron, that all gets taken care of. All the starting, the stopping of the clock is all taken care of down here right at this control panel. And the reason that's done right here and not up in the press box is because communication with the referees is key. So if a player commits a penalty or if there's a problem with the clock or anything like that, the referee can come over to the hole, talk in to Spokes, he's our gentleman that runs the clock, and say, hey, 25 in white has a penalty, and he goes ahead and punches in 25 for the team that committed the penalty and gets it up on the clock, and he controls everything right here. So that's why it's done right between the benches as opposed to being done in the press box, which is where we control a lot of the game day stuff will come from up there in the press box. Down here we also have a scorekeeper who's logging who scored the goals, who did what, and that's actually Del Bacchi. He's the one who's here. He'll take a dry erase marker and he'll write on this dry erase board that's stuck up here, and what that's for is a relay up to the press box. So myself, as I'm broadcasting the game for the Bruins, or Brian, who's our PA announcer, can see exactly what the penalty was. You can kind of see it up there. We'll take a walk up there so you can see everything, but he'll be standing up in that area, and with it being on this whiteboard, it relays, okay, 25 in white was called for a trip, and that way he can make the announcement to all the fans in the arena and say 25 tripping penalty at whatever time. Same thing for goals. We'll write the goals, the assists, and all the pertinent information up on that whiteboard. And that all gets run from down here. You're also going to have our head of off-ice officials, Steve Turner, who works for the city of Austin as well. He's here, down here, just to maintain peace between the two teams, because as you've seen, there's no doors or anything separating that bench from this bench. So he's just here to maintain the peace and to make sure that guys who are in the penalty box stay for the duration and nobody tries to get out a couple seconds early, so he mans the doors. He'll be here in here as well. So it's a pretty busy, this is like the epicenter for all the really important stuff during the course of the game. So let's go ahead. I don't want to take you guys on the ice because it's a difficult thing to walk on the ice, especially with all the cameras. But we're going to go back out the way we came, and I'll talk to you guys a little bit in the process of how we got the ice. Because as you look at the ice from this angle, this is brand new ice. This ice is not even a week old yet, and it's quite a process in terms of how to build the ice, because what people might not realize is underneath is just giant gray slab of concrete, not unlike the concrete that makes up the rest of this building. So it is a big process. So while we walk around and we can head up to the press box area, I'll tell you how they make the ice, because it's a really cool process, to be honest with you.
If anybody's got questions out there, be sure to type
Let me know.
Be sure to type them in the comment section, and we'll be glad to answer them. So, got a few people watching. Hi, Michael. Hi, Jean. Poppy. Hi, Nancy Schneeball.
Hi, Pam.
Hi,
I like
Nancy.
your comments, sweet, Pam says. Feel free to ask any questions if you guys didn't quite hear Randy over on his phone, so.
Making ice is a really cool process, but it's tedious and it's kind of a longer process. But it's really neat. So it all started out because I know a lot of folks, like I had said, might have seen, you know, they were making the decision, do we build ice, do we not build ice? Well, they made the decision to build ice, and once that decision was made, we already talked, the first thing they do is cool this building down. It takes them about 3 to 5 days to get the temperature from normal, you know, 68, 69, 70 degrees down to 55 degrees. So that's the first thing they do. Not only does that better prep to maintain the ice, but it's going to cool the concrete. So that way the concrete can serve as a good base. The second step that they go through is it's actually paint. A lot of people don't realize that, but the reason the ice is white is paint. They go through, they'll come on the gator with the same thing that paints our ice pink during pink is what paints it white. So they'll actually, we're going to come to a door here so you guys can see this up close and personal. They will, that's actually white paint on top of concrete underneath there. So that's the second step. First step is cool the building. Second step is to paint the concrete white. The third step, if you see all the horizontal lines from the goal lines to the blue lines to the red lines to those lines that are in the center circles and the little hash marks on the outside of the circles, those are all actually a paper material, not quite as thick as construction paper, but definitely thicker than like a tissue paper. And that all gets measured out and laid down. And once it's laid down, they'll come through with pump sprayers, similar to what you would see for pesticides and things, and start to wet that down. That just soft amount of water, just to dampen it, will get it to stick to the paint, so that way it stays put. The next step, all the circles. So the big circles for the face-off dots, the big circle down at center ice, which has the Bruins logo in it, as well as the circle on the left, which is right over by where we were just standing. All that gets painted by hand. So they'll rig up their contraptions, which is not unlike, you know, a pencil on a string. It's very, very similar to that. That way they can get the circles drawn on, and they go through the same watering process with that paint. They're going to go through and just sprinkle water on top of it to get it a little bit tacky to make sure that it sits in place. Other things, like you can kind of see the crease right here, the logos at center ice, the face-off dots themselves, they're actually all pre-printed on mesh. It's a very fine mesh material that they'll put down, and that they will also go over with the hand spreaders just to make sure that they get a little damp and tacky. But those are not painted. When you talk about up in the cities, when you talk about Excel Center, you know, where the Wild are playing, you talk about big NHL franchises and big arenas, those are all hand painted. All the logos, everything is hand painted. Down here, we get them printed on a mesh, we put them down, and once everything's down, once the lines are down, once the circles are painted, once all the face-off and advertising is all down, then we can start to flood it. They'll come out with a hose and they'll start to really fill up the ice to start layering. The reason they can't do that right away is the pressure coming out of the hose will be too much, that it'll start to either rip the paper and we'll start having jagged lines, or it'll move things. So that's why they gotta really come through and just dampen it first, get it to set, and then they can come in with the hoses, lay everything down. And the final step, once they get about 3/4 of an inch to an inch of thickness, then they can get the actual Zamboni on the ice to flood it with more water. They need to have a decent base for that, otherwise it's just going to be too thin for the Zamboni to get through. So that's the process of making ice, and that is a long, long process. It took them about 2.5 weeks to get it ready, and it's not long for any other reason than you want to make sure that your paint is dry, you want to make sure that your lines are set, make sure that they're damp, and that you don't have any major issues. You don't want to, you know, rip a red line in the middle of the process and have to put a new one down. So you got to wait for everything to kind of cure, and then put another layer on, and then another layer, and another layer. It's literally built up in layers, and then those layers get taken off throughout the course of a season. They get taken off, and then a new layer gets put on with the Zamboni in the middle of the game. It's a pretty cool process. It's pretty impressive. Do we have any questions?
How thick is the ice?
The ice itself is going to be about 1 inch to 1.5 inches, give or take. It's not as thick as people think. A lot of people tend to think that it's real thick. It's not very thick. That's what makes it so dangerous to try and walk on, because it's not very different than black ice. It's so thin and so smooth. Now, that will vary in time. If you take a look, there are screws that you can kind of see along the bottom there. You see these bottom screws as they go all the way around? That's the height of the ice. That's when the city, they use that as kind of a guide. Right here, there are 2 screws. That's how they know how high up to go.
Okay, so how do you make pink ice?
Pink ice is literally, what they'll do is they'll come through with a Zamboni and they will scratch off a whole layer off the top. And then they're gonna come through and paint on top of what's already there. And then they come through with more water and freeze the pink paint between 2 layers of ice. And then that makes it easy for us, because when the pink game is done, we can come back with the Zamboni, scratch off all the pink, and then just rebuild a smaller section of the ice. We don't have to go all the way down to the bottom. When you talk about some of the professional arenas, when they do paint the rink pink, or some places will do St. Patrick's Day and they'll paint the rink green or something like that, because they have a larger budget and they have more manpower, they'll actually melt the whole thing, and they'll start from scratch. Instead of painting it white, they'll paint it pink or they'll paint it green, and then build up the ice again. So that's the process for paint the rink pink. It's actually pretty cool to see them come through in the gator and just driving down, and it takes quite a while for them to get the rink to be pink, because you have to put on a pretty good thickness of pink color so that it shows through that top layer of ice, because it will diffuse the color and it won't be quite as bright as you expect. So they have to go, they'll start as early as 6 a.m., 5 a.m. on that Saturday before Paint the Rink Pink and get started. They'll scrape everything off, and then they have to layer everything up in colors. They'll just drive around in circles, in circles, in circles until they get it ready to go. It's a really cool process. It's really neat to see.
I have one more question. How
Sure.
many Zamboni drivers do we have?
There's a whole bunch. They all work for the city of Austin, and they'll get scheduled up based on work schedules and who's working the Bruins game and things like that. I can think off the top of my head 5, but that doesn't mean that that's necessarily the right number. There's probably a couple more. Aaron Heimer, who is the rink manager who deals with the arena on a day-to-day basis, he does most of the Zamboniing for the Bruins. He'll be the one that covers practices and things like that. And then the city will schedule up other people for games, for high school games, or for whatever the usage is. They know basically when the ice is rented out that they need someone here to go ahead and run the Zamboni. And it's a pretty cool thing. I'm not mechanically at all inclined, so I always love seeing them go around. If I was on a Zamboni, the tail end would spin out, I'd break glass, it'd be terrible. It's not my forte, so I've always admired those guys, because you're driving on ice. It's pretty cool. It's very, very cool.
I gotta show one logo over here. I'm sure you guys have seen all the logos, but can you see that one right there? That's us, Hormel Historic Home. I don't know how many of you went to a game last year and saw our logo up there. But one of the sponsors, they've got lots of sponsors around, which I'm sure you guys are noticing.
We couldn't do it without the sponsors, that is for sure. I mean, that's why we're here, is because of our sponsors. They're so good to us, and they allow us to operate the team and run the team. You know, it's not a cheap thing to I'm sure Austin Youth Hockey says the same thing, to have a hockey team. It's quite expensive, and our sponsors, without them, we certainly could not be here, could not do it. It's the town of Austin. Everybody here is so willing to help out everybody, and it's pretty neat. You might be seeing this ugly white box behind me that a lot of you may already know what it's for, but this is the goal judge box. So for every Bruins game, and for most high school games, you have to have someone actually seated in this goal judge box. And for the longest time, John Norton served down here. He unfortunately passed away in 2017, so he was a stalwart here. I never had the opportunity to meet the gentleman. That was before my time with the team. But he sat here in the south end, and we had somebody in the north end. But the idea is, if you guys want to swing around this way, inside it's very unglamorous, but there's just a chair there, and you can see the little light switch. And the idea of the light switch as I reach in is to control the lights on top. So you have that light, which is, I believe, red, and then you have the green light. And what they mean is red light is a goal. So someone's sitting here watching intently, and if that puck crosses the line, boom, he flips that switch, and the red light goes on, and that lets everybody know that there was a goal. The green light is for the end of the periods, to let people know you're going to hear the horn, but then there's also a light to let people know that's the end. So we have someone on this side, and then we have someone down there as well, and that's something that our head of off-ice officials, Steve Turner, who I briefly mentioned earlier, he handles scheduling all that up and making sure that we have somebody on either side of the arena. And if you look up next to those red lights, you might see that little black box that's on top there, on top of the goal judge box. That is our fogger. So when the Bruins score up in the press box, which we're going to get to here in a second, there are controls which can activate the lights and the foggers. And we have two, one on each goal judge box. And anytime the Bruins score, Laser Dave, who controls our lights and our lasers in the arena during a game night, will flip a switch. And you'll see some orange fog come out of there. It's kind of mimicking fire and things along those lines. But it gives me a great opportunity to talk about the improvements that we made this off-season to the lighting system. We went from 8 lights mounted on the on the truss at center ice. We went from 8 to 24. So we have a crazy light show scheduled for our fans coming up for the 2020-21 season. It's going to be insane. Everything from strobing the goaltender when the Bruins score, strobing the other goaltender just to kind of rubbing it in a little bit, to having some awesome walk-in lighting and really build that atmosphere. We have the foggers here. We also have the foggers that'll come out onto the ice for the entrance for when the Bruins come out of their locker room, which we're going to see here shortly in a matter of seconds as well. And two of the other additions that some of you might have seen if you came to a Bruins game towards the end of the season last year, if you look up on the catwalk up top, there's a black cylindrical looking thing that's kind of just hanging down there. That's actually a spotlight which will shine directly on the floor below in front of our beer garden that has the Bruins logo. We have another one mounted out in front of the concession stand behind us as well. It's just more things. It's actually, if you wanted to see that one's mounted in the corner there off by that black board that's in the wall. You can see the black light comes down and that shines the Austin Bruins logo right onto the concrete. So that way, fans, while they're waiting, it's just another added atmospheric thing and to remind people why they're here, to cheer on the Austin Bruins and get that team spirit going and to get everything ready to go. Well, come on up. I'll show you the view from the press box. This is what I'm most familiar with and where I see everything from. For fans who haven't been to a Bruins game, as we walk up, you're going to see some stickers that are actually stuck to certain seats. Those are reserved seats, so all of our season ticket holders have the option for just an additional $25 to reserve their seat. So that way, when they come to every Bruins game, they get those seats guaranteed to them with a sticker that literally has their name on it. We have those up here. As you get closer, you'll find that they tend to be more towards the center ice area because that's the best seats in the house. So as we walk up, you're going to start to see some particularly up here. A whole bunch of them here in this row. As you can see, everybody wants to be right at center ice. These belong to Tom Claperick over there at Home Federal. We have Brian Schultz, who's our PA announcer. His family will sit there, the Crumbs as well, and you can see him going all the way down. It seems to be off to the left-hand side because the second most popular area, aside from center ice, is right behind the Bruins bench. Everybody wants to be there. It's a little messy up here, and it's a little tight because it's not a traditional press box, but I mentioned before I hit my head on this quite often, so if I do it again, you're welcome for the comedic value. So from this space here, this is my view for every single game. And this is a busy area during a game. You might be able to see in front of you, there's some labels. We have the visiting radio all the way down on the far right-hand side. We have our official statistician, Ian Klingfuss. He'll be sitting here. He's responsible for tracking the shots on goal, logging all the goals and the scores, and relaying that to his software, which puts it up on the NAHL website, so we have all the stats. We'll have a camera mounted right here, which is for Hockey TV and our web stream, and then my position right here, which will usually have all of my control boards and everything that I need. And buried underneath all of this good stuff, this is the PA booth. So underneath all this, we've got everything from controls to the overhead speakers, where we'll have a laptop plugged in so we can play that awesome music and goal songs and all that good stuff. We have a microphone for Brian so he can make his announcements, his PA announcements. We also have, this is the granddaddy. This controls those lights that I was talking about. We have so many things programmed and so much fun stuff coming for the year, and it's all a matter of, I wish I could show you, but none of it's turned on right now. But slide up sliders, get the strobes going, get the atmosphere going. This is a busy, busy spot during a game. If you ever walk by and you see all of us kind of just looking like we're swamped with work, we really are. It's a big process, and it takes a lot to get going, but you know what? It makes for a great experience for players, and it's something that we love doing, so we keep doing it. We love it. As long as you guys will keep coming to the games, we'll keep having them. As long as COVID will let us, that's for sure. Let's go take a look at the locker room, because you saw where I work. Let's go see where the guys work. Come on down this way. Anybody got any questions? This is an awesome time as we mosey on over.
Anyone have any more questions?
One thing that's really unique about this building, and I think it's because of the time that it was built, is the fact that the glass along this side is so low. You can see, like right now, I'm just leaning on the edge. I mean, if I was an opponent or a fan of an opponent, it's not hard for me to just go ahead and drop my garbage on somebody. Don't do that. You will immediately get kicked out of the game. But you don't see this very often. You don't see these walkways right behind the benches. Usually there's a buffer zone and then the walkways begin, or the seats come right up to the edge to the point where you can't walk side to side. And you can see it even more. I catch myself during warm-ups as the Bruins are out here and they're getting loose and they're taking shots on goal. I tend to be walking around a lot, and I get a little nervous, and you got to kind of pay attention because this glass is not that high up, so you want to be careful as you're walking through and throughout the course of the game, because obviously pucks, sticks, things fly into the seats, but it's just another characteristic that you don't see in a lot of arenas. Of all the arenas we go to throughout the season, nothing is even remotely close to being, you can't stand this close to the glass. You just can't. You don't get that intimacy anywhere else. It's just one of the characteristics that make this such a cool arena to play hockey in. Come on down here, we'll check out the locker room. This is always blocked off for fans during game night. We'll have this gate will be closed because this entire area is the Bruins setup area. We'll get to the locker room here in a second as we get ready for camps, but what you will see is normally on this wall is going to be a cart that's going to have all the sticks for all the players, because players don't just have one stick, they have 3 or 4. So they're going to all be lined up here. We'll have a table set up in this hallway, much like the table that I mentioned in the hallway under the locker room, where players will have their tapes and their tools and get everything ready to go. This right here is our equipment room. This actually goes back and over behind that drywall. That will house everything from our spare parts to our skate sharpener to bags of equipment to CO2 canisters that we use for the pregame intro. All that stuff is housed in here. Jim Seguin works in here. He's got a sewing machine in there to sew up anything or make any fixes. And the only other room then that we have in here, neither one of these are all that exciting to really show you. I think we're locked up. Oh, this is open. This is just the athletic training room. That I can't find the light for. Oh, here it is. Where the guys will come in before a game, they'll get a massage, or they'll get a certain, if they have a hamstring issue, they'll get that kind of rubbed out and worked on. We also have our washing machine and our dryer. That way we can clean the guys' gear and everything like that. So Mayo Clinic and Kristen Arid, she's our athletic trainer. She'll be in here before a game, helping guys get taped up. Certain guys like things taped up a certain way. They're very particular. If you don't know a hockey player, if your son or your daughter doesn't play hockey, then you don't know that. They're very, very particular. And let's go check out the locker room. So this rack right here will be for the guys to actually put their shoes on. So they put their shoes on before they come into the locker room. And here is the Austin Bruins locker room. During a normal situation, guys will have their names on a nice nameplate put up top here. They keep their gloves, their helmets, and anything else. Shin pads sometimes will go up here. And then underneath, they also have storage as well. So they'll keep their toiletry bags or extra pairs of skates or anything else that they might have will all get stored under here. And you might see these little metal things. Those are where the skates will actually get hung. So their skates will get hung. And when they come in on a game day, this is all ready for them. Jim Siegwin, our equipment manager, his #1 job is to go in here, make sure all the guys have all their stuff where it belongs, hang their jersey up on the clips, so that's ready to go. They'll have their practice jerseys, and then they'll have their warm-up jerseys, and then their game jerseys. In the event of if it's a practice day, he has practice jerseys hanging up here as well. And then they have all their skates hanging up. They have everything they need. The only piece of equipment that is not in this room is their sticks, which they'll grab off the stick cart that I mentioned when they walk out of the corner. Down here, rule #1, if you've ever been in a locker room, never, ever, ever step on the logo. You can step on the carpet all you want, don't step on the logo. But down here, they have a dry change room. So what guys will do is when they come in on a game day, they are required to wear a shirt, jacket, and a tie. They have to wear that stuff. And rather than hanging it on these clips here, which is going to be by their sweaty bodies, by all their equipment, they actually hang it up in here. They all just hang their suits and their ties and their pants in here, and that's what we call the dry change room. So that they keep everything wet out, because things get wet from sweat and from the ice, and gear is just damp. They keep everything out there. When they get out of the shower, they dry off. They come, they grab their shirt, tie, and then they head on out. So that's the dry change room. And then down in this corner, that's lifted up, but it's a very traditional boys' locker room shower situation. We have 4 showers that are set up in here with some towel racks. You can see we have an ice tub for the guys, bathroom as well, big mirror. So this is where they'll come right after the game, they'll take their showers, they'll go dry off in the wet portion of the room, and then they go into that small room, put their shirt, tie on, and head on out after a big victory. There's really only one section left that I have to show you, and that's the front office for the Bruins on the other side, and that would be the tour of Riverside. Any other questions? Did anybody get back to us, or am I just kind of...
No questions.
This was donated to us by the Austin Fire Department. This is the unsung hero. This gets awarded after every single win to a player that, sure, it's easy to give the guy who scored 2 goals in a game, the game puck or things like that. This goes to the guy that was unsung, the guy that made a huge play that is just, it's not going to show up in the box score, that nobody's going to talk about the next day, but was key. So they give this to him, and he'll take a picture with that. We throw that up on social media as the unsung hero of the game, and that was graciously donated to us by the Austin Fire Department. It's easily one of the coolest things. You always want to be handed a game puck or the Austin Fire, the unsung hero of the game. So that's an example of the game puck. They'll give the game puck to the guy who scored the 2 goals. He was the player of the game, right? But there's always someone else, whether it's a goalie who had a crazy game that, maybe you only gave up 1 goal on 45 shots, which is incredible. He'll get the unsung hero, or somebody who made a big hit, or somebody who turned the tide somehow. And that's all voted on by the team. When they come in after the game, the team captains, the leaders of the team, they'll all make their votes, and they'll hand out in their final little coaches talk. You know, the coach will come in and say, "Nice job, guys. We really did this well. We did that well. Here's the unsung hero," and then boom, they announce it. They announce the player of the game. The player of the game gets a puck, which is much like what you guys just saw as well. And that's kind of the camaraderie that those guys have. But let's go take a walk. We'll go check out the Bruins front office, which is where I spend most of my time, not during game day anyway. And get everything set up and ready to go. It's a full-blown process. I mean, everything that, if you've ever come to a Bruins game or you've seen anything like that, everything that happens has to come through me, whether it's a graphic for a Jumbotron or a program ad or a schedule or a poster or a picture. It's all coming through my office. And I have so many people that help me out and get things done throughout the course of the year. I couldn't do it without them, but it's a lot of work, so we need a workspace to do that. You might see some tables during the game as well. Most of them, these are the only two on this side, but most of them are on the opposite side of the ice. These are reserved tables. There are VIP tables, and they too get their little stickers. This one's starting to peel off, so I'll have to get a new one for that there. But these folks get the best view of the house, and there's actually a wait list for those tables. They are spoken for very, very quickly. The Bear Den, which some of you might have known about, might have even enjoyed a game in here, is our party area. So come on up the steps here. This is the area where you can come with 50, well, I guess 49 of your closest friends, and you can hang out and watch a hockey game from right here. We have these pub tables that'll be spread out throughout. We also set up a table here which will have snack mix, we'll have a keg of beer if you're big into that kind of thing. We'll set that up for you, and all of that we can reserve throughout the season for every single game. So if you're interested in, if you're a business and you want to bring your clients out to a game and do like a networking thing, this is an awesome space. If you have a big birthday party or a big group or something like that, this is another really good thing to do. Just bring everybody out, have a good time, enjoy some beer. We'll get some food brought out to you so you guys can eat. You can watch hockey from 5 feet away. I mean, it's pretty incredible. This is the Bear Den, and it's really, really cool. Really fun spot to watch a game from, because you're right on top of the players. I mean, especially in these corners, there's a lot of battling that goes on. Guys are right here, so it's really neat. Come on down, we'll go take a look at the front office.
We had a question pop up, and
Yeah.
I don't know if we'll know the answer, so we might have to do some research.
Try.
Beth says, who is the best players to play in Austin, whether Mavericks, Packers, or Bruins?
Obviously, I'm a little biased towards the Bruins. Dante Sheriff is probably the single most exciting player I've ever seen on the ice. He's the Bruins' all-time points leader. He broke that record last year. He had the Paint the Rink Pink overtime game winner just a couple years ago. But as far as the Mavericks go, you know, you talk about Lou Viro, and we can actually get a great look at his banner, which is directly behind us, up on the wall there. He was that first coach of the Austin Mavericks. He's in the U.S. Hockey Hall of Fame. He was here for 3 years. He's probably the most, he wasn't a player, so it doesn't necessarily answer their question, but he was so influential in getting hockey here in this area. So he has his name up in the rafters, and there's a reason for that right there. And you can see that the Mavericks were the U.S. National Junior Champions in 1975-76. At that time, the leagues were a little bit different than they are now. In 76, they switched over to the USHL, the United States Hockey League, which kind of bought up all those smaller junior teams. Another name as far as important people to go is Frank Sarator, who is currently the head coach of Air Force men's hockey. He was the second coach in the history of the Mavericks, and was the longest tenured coach for the Mavericks. He was with the Mavericks for maybe, I want to say 6 or 7 years before moving up to the USHL, and then ultimately now he's the head coach at Air Force Academy and their D1 program, which is a powerhouse in college hockey. So he was a big time influence on the program as well. So I don't know too many players from back in that era, but I can tell you who some of those foundation type guys were that really set things up, because ultimately if it weren't for the success the Mavericks had, the Bruins wouldn't be here. You know, when 2009 came around and Craig Patrick, our owner, was looking at locations and where to put teams, I know that the Mavericks and their past, the successes and the love that the town has for hockey definitely played into his reasoning for choosing Riverside Arena and Austin in general. So, yeah, those guys are very influential to even what we do here today. Up on top of the scoreboard, I think you might have gotten a shot earlier, but you can see the girls' hockey banners and boys' hockey banners as they were state champs or section champs or what have you, all up there on top of the scoreboard. There's a few Bruins banners up there as well, showcase tournament champions and Robertson Cup finalists. We're still looking for our very first Robertson Cup, but I'm feeling good about 2020-21. I think the Bruins are going to have a really tough team to beat. You can also see all the banners from the Big Nine, which is the high schools in the area, everything from Mankato. The two Rochester schools, Century and John Marshall, are on the other end. Of course, Austin is there. It's just another added flair, so when teams come in here, you know, if Winona makes the drive down here, they can see their banner as you would expect in more of a gymnasium type setting, you know, for high school. Concession stand is here. The nice thing about our concession stand, 100% operated by Austin Youth Hockey. So the parents of the Austin Youth Hockey Group will come out to our games. They run the concession stand. They order the products. They, you know, serve up the food, and they get to keep their profits. That way, they can help fund the Austin Youth Hockey program. So if you're listening and you're not a big hockey fan, youth hockey is kind of like the little league of the hockey world. You know, you'll go from little league to high school, much like you'll go from youth hockey to high school hockey, or in the case of the Bruins, junior hockey, which kind of just is a step above high school hockey. You know, you're going to go from high school hockey to the Bruins before going to college, or you might come to the Bruins before you even go to high school at all, because you might be someone that is touted as a prospect for the NHL or something along those lines. So that's kind of the real loose definition of how things get broken down. But I've been saying it. We'll go take a look at the Bruins front office here down this hallway. If you ever need me, or if you ever need us, or if you ever call the Bruins, that call gets routed through our front office here, which is right through this door here. Just look for the signs. Come on in. Our colors are black and gold, so naturally we're going to get everything in here painted black and gold. It's a little messy. It's an office. We got to run things out of here, but this is the epicenter of everything. You can see some of the plaques that we got from last year from our players that were chosen the All-NAHL second team, the All-NAHL first team. Dante Sheriff, who I had mentioned, was probably the most exciting hockey player I've ever seen in my time, include juniors and pro. He is electrifying. We also have some plaques from players that we're still trying to hang up, who had spent some time at the Top Prospects tournament, which is similar to like an all-star game. We have some of those plaques and things hung up in the corner, as well as some Bruins posters and things along those lines. But this is the office. This is where everything gets done. And the room directly behind you that doesn't have a light on, you can go turn it on quick. It looks like a playroom right now, because yeah, we got a ping pong table. You gotta de-stress somehow, right? This room is our multi-purpose room, and it truly is a multi-purpose room. Right now, it's used as a ping pong table space, but during the season, you can see the TV mounted on the wall. It's primarily used for a video room. All those chairs that are there along the wall will come out, and the players will come in here with their particular units, or the whole team together, and the coach will actually hook up his laptop and run through the film. This is where the guys get that training, get that lesson. It also acts as a storage room, as you can see from all the storage cases around. We have our tricycles that we use on the ice for our intermission games. Some games there's some other bags and things, some jerseys laying around, and it's also used as a hospitality room. So for some folks who are looking for another step up above the bear den, if they want to take it even further, what we'll do is we'll come in here and we'll clean this out before a game. We'll set out all tables, we'll have all chairs, It's a party room, exactly right. And we'll get the game put up on Hockey TV right here. You really want to be out there watching the game, but when you can come in here during the intermissions, you can really warm up a little bit and then get ready to go for round number 3 out there. So
Sounds good. Any last minute questions before we finish up today? I have someone named Paul Jacobson that says, my grandpa Peter Jacobson was the first Riverside Arena manager.
that's awesome.
So
That's
very
awesome.
cool. Thanks for sharing that, Paul.
We mentioned that Aaron was the current rink manager, so he's from a long line of people that have taken really good care of this arena. I mean, it's really in good shape, and it's pretty cool. I love being able to come here, and this is our home rink. You know, it's very, very cool. Coach's office is one more door down. That's locked, and they have way too much sensitive material up on the walls and who they're going to pick and rosters and all that other good stuff. So we can't necessarily go in there, but it's a very similar setup to this. They have their own little space to operate, so that's a little bit down closer to that far end door. But if you guys have any other questions about Bruins, I'll do my best about Mavericks stuff. I'll do my best about high school stuff. I'll do my best about the building itself, but I'd be more than happy to talk to you. If you have any questions, come on by, see us, rent the ice, birthday parties, all that stuff's available through the City Hall and through Parks and Rec. So if you want to come on out and enjoy the ice, you know, with a whole bunch of friends and do a birthday party, I'm sure they can help you out with that stuff. If you want Bruins tickets, if you're looking for birthday parties for a Bruins game, or you want to rent out the Bears Den, or you want the hospitality room, which I promise you looks better than it does right now in the middle of the off season. We got a lot of house cleaning to do. Let me know. I'd be more than happy to help you. My name's TJ Shalott. I'm the broadcaster and media relations manager for the Bruins. If you have any questions, call us. We're here. I'm going to be the one to answer the phone, or you can email me, tj@austinbruins.com. Thanks for coming along, guys.
Thanks for
Awesome,
showing us
thank
around.
you.
And Amanda, where are we going next week?
Next week we're going to the Adams Area Historical Society. So tune in next week for Hump Day History on Wednesday at noon, both on the Hormel Historic Home Facebook page or the Moore County Historical Society page. And then we'll get this video uploaded to YouTube also. So make sure to subscribe to the Hormel Historic Home on YouTube.
Okay, great.
Awesome. Thanks,
Thanks
guys.
for
Thanks for
watching.
watching.